All right, I think we've given enough time for people to flood into the room. So hello and welcome to Align Modern Health's Digital Doc Series. My name is Ryan. Today's topic couldn't have come at a better time. Chicago and many places around the country have been enduring some severe winter weather. While the turn of the recent weather is a nice relief, if you live in Chicago, you know we're not out of the woods yet. And on top of that, dealing with the ongoing pandemic can certainly take its toll on us both physically and mentally. However, if you're joining us today, it's because you have that desire to break out of these winter blues. And sometimes we just need a little help from our friends. We are really excited for this one because this is the first time we have multiple speakers, and one of which are from our dear friends from Fleet Feet Chicago. By the end, you'll have all the tips and resources for a brighter and hopeful end to dealing with this rough winter season. But first, if this is your first time tuning in and you have never heard of Align Modern Health, we are Chicago's highest rated in integrative health and wellness. We take a non-surgical, non-pharmaceutical, evidence-based care approach to the medicine we practice. We have 15 locations across the city and suburbs where we offer chiropractic physical medicine, functional medicine and clinical nutrition, acupuncture, and clinical massage therapy. We look to get to the root cause of your problems, not just treating the symptoms. While these are the most common things that we treat, we certainly go beyond this list. So today we have one of our amazing chiropractors. He ran his first marathon in 2018 off of a challenge he received from one of his patients. Since then, his ambition for activity drove him to sign up for his first ultra marathon in Antelope Canyon and his first triathlon in Chicago. If it wasn't for a pandemic, both would be already feathers in his cap. He was also a gymnast, CrossFit athlete, and being a physical medicine practitioner, it's easy to say staying active is his passion. Please welcome from our Southport Clinic, Dr. Adam Altman.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and look forward to chatting with you all and having some good discussions.
Absolutely. Our next guest is an expert in winter running. His company, Fleet Feet Chicago, is always up to date on the latest gear that can keep us both warm and feeling motivated to be active. But Fleet Feet goes beyond retail, continuously finding ways to build community within the sport of running. He's the co-owner of Chicago Endurance Sports, which is a training club inclusive to all participants wanting to conquer their Everest. Whether it's your first 5K, your fastest marathon, walking, running, or a little bit of both, he leads with the mantra, running changes everything. Please welcome the owner and CEO of Fleet Feet Chicago, Dave Zimmer.
Yeah, I wear it on my chest. Running changes everything. And if you're not a runner and you're here today, we want you to be out there, motivated and active. So I look forward to giving you some tips today.
Absolutely. Well, welcome, gentlemen. Glad to have you both with us. Before we get started, if you have any questions that come to mind during the presentation, I encourage you, go ahead and type them in the Q&A, and we will get to them at the end. So let's begin. Before this winter, 2020 and a pandemic happened, how did that affect us? Dr. Altman, I want to start with you. What are some results of being inactive?
Yeah, well, what didn't happen during the pandemic? We had a lot of things that, kind of happened to us. And due to local restrictions, changes in schedule, much of our daily routine was disrupted. We became more sedentary and glued to our technology, whether it be the phone, the computer, television. Binge watching TV became the new normal. I remember everyone was big on that Tiger King show. So, a lot of our life changed. Although some people took time to redefine ourselves, most people saw a backward slide in their health. I know I did. I had a lot of challenges come on as about. And as a result of being sedentary, these are just some of the things that you can see here that are results of being less active. Everybody knows common effects of being less active would be high blood pressure, heart disease, blood sugar dysregulation, possibly leading to type 2 diabetes are all common things. But things that you don't think about, the more sinister type things or things that may not be as knowledgeable to just everyone off the street would be something like increased risks of depression. Activity is so informative and great for the body to help regulate our brain chemistry. Increased risk of certain cancers. Our triggers are things like that that can happen as a result of not being physically active. Also, in a pandemic, you want to have a strong immune system. Working out at a point that is a good set point, but not too much to be detrimental, is beneficial and actually for immune supportive type reactions within the body. So it's extremely, extremely important to not fall into that trap of being sedentary just because of the multifactorial effects that it can have on the body. And also bone density. It helps strengthen bone density and make our muscles, tendons, and ligaments stronger. Because during the pandemic, I've seen higher rates of neck and lower back pain. It's always multifactorial, and exercise is one thing that addresses all of those.
Absolutely. All great points there, Dr. Altman. On the other side, we know that being physically active is a good thing. Can you discuss some benefits to being physically active?
Yeah, absolutely. Being physically active is so important because it's a natural process of movement that helps the body heal. A lot of people don't realize that helps get blood to all the different tissues to our brain. As you can see here, exercise can help decrease risks of dementia. It's just also extremely important in strengthening the heart to prevent cardiovascular disease. Your heart is just a pump. If you don't challenge it, if you don't stress it, you're not going to get the positive effects from exercise, but also too, your arteries and things are going to stiffen, and then all of a sudden you're going to start showing up to the doctor with high blood pressure and all those other detrimental effects. But also, lastly, too, during the pandemic, it's been extremely important to keep our mental health into a good perspective. And like kind of what I was talking about, exercise promotes good brain chemistry. The neurotransmitters or the signals in the brain, if you're not working out, can become in a very, think of it as like it could be detrimental to you because too much of one chemical becomes overdriven, or too much of one thing is there and not enough of the good chemicals that help clear and help us think better are all reasons why exercise is extremely important.
I like that word, detrimental. I like that play on words there, Dr. Altman. So Dave, from a personal level, how does being active help you mentally?
So I'm going to go back to Newton's first law. A object in motion has a tendency to stay in motion, and an object not in motion is not going to move. And I think right now, just getting in motion is the key. Whether you're a runner, a cyclist, or somebody who has never had an exercise routine, is really important to get moving. And mentally, that is so positive. To be able to have the positive mental attitude of not only being able to go out and do an activity, but also see the results of that activity. So let's go back to thinking about, the idea of Newton's first law and being able to move. Now, one of the things that you're going to be able to see is by running, and I'll use running as an example because that's the activity I know best, is that running is one of the most giving activities of the world, not only to the individual doing the activity, but also to the world at large. Running races, which we're going to be getting back to hopefully sometime in the very near future, gives so much money. $500 million is donated to charities from people going out and doing the activity of left, right, repeat, whether that is walks or runs. And that can give you so much positive mental energy. The world could be a better place simply by going out and running. And I know that is an altruistic, utopia type of atmosphere, but I think we need to move towards utopia now. I think we need to get the heck away from where we've been and move towards a better place. And I think that being active can get us to that better place.
Fantastic. I love that. Yeah, I love it. Let's, once you get moving, let's keep it moving. But you know what? We are still in a pandemic. And unfortunately, without a clear answer of when things will get back to normal, how can we get excited and create some momentum for getting active again? Dr. Altman, let's start with you. What are some tips and goals, tips to setting up goals?
The most important thing is to follow the acronym SMART when you're planning your goals. You want them to be specific, you want them to be measurable, you want them to be achievable, you want to be realistic, and you want them to be timely, okay? Also, within that framework, you have to show up mentally, not just physically. You have to commit to wanting to be there. You know what I mean? You can't start the journey if you don't put your foot starting out with one step in front of you, to start. It's the small things, the little things in every day that will help you. Things that I do that help me in my common practice in every day is I write down my goals and I make sure it's somewhere that I'm going to see them as well. In high traffic areas in your house, or say you're working on your computer. It's always good to have that work, focus, but also too, know that you're working for something else, that you have your you time later on. So I'll make a Post-it note below my computer screen, just as like a little reminder, don't forget to take care of yourself kind of thing, Also, I highly, highly recommend in being flexible. Flexibility is the key because there's a million reasons why that can come up for work to get in the way. Your kids could get in the way. You have to be able to be adaptable to what life throws at you, especially during a pandemic year. So don't be so tight and rigid in your planning and prescription of exercise. I also like to have a couple of alternative workout strategies. So let's say, for example, your goal was a 15-minute run that day. Don't be so rigid on having to be outside and running. Maybe 15 minutes of yoga, of body weight movements are just things that you can do. Or getting on a bike and cycling once the snow and everything gets a little more safer for us to be outside. But it's always so good to have other options so you don't feel stuck or fixated in a plan. The other thing with regarding to talking about flexibility is make sure that you're taking care of yourself first too. If you're constantly giving to work or you're constantly giving to others in your family and you're not taking that time for you, you're not going to be able to help others efficiently. There's a reason why on airplanes you put your mask on first because you got to be able to take care of other people. And think of exercise like that. That's been a big shift for me during this pandemic. Exercise just wasn't for me for aesthetics or other things like that for the reasons why people exercise. I needed to take a break to clear my headspace. And so setting that time, setting that intention is another way that you can make your goals become reality. It's the little everyday steps that coming back to help. Other small things that I like to do in my everyday is I put it in my calendar, whether it be, on my phone, I make sure I'm tracking it. If I know there's an important workout that I want to do, or if I know the weather's going to be nice like yesterday, I'll put that in my phone to set that intention to make sure that I'm coming back to doing the things that I wanted to do. The other thing too is make sure that you have contingency plans for inclement weather. As you know, the past 2 weeks, if you jump back 2 weeks, now today it's all bright and sunny, which is great. But if you jump back 2 weeks, when that snow came, your fitness didn't stop, okay? Your goals shouldn't have stopped either, because that's one of the pitfalls that'll cause you to not stay and remain active. So a couple different things, that you can plan to do is make sure you have alternate resources at home. I really try and tell people that you don't need anything other than just yourself to be physically active. There's alternate modes. A lot of times people think exercise has to be activity. Meditation can be extremely beneficial for causing a shift. I know it's not the exercise thing that you're thinking of, but if you're constantly working out too hard, that's a great balance. Another way that you can get your body to kind of rest and reset neurologically, because we've been so stressed on our tech. Those type of things are all great ways to help you achieve your goals.
I love it. I love it. Dave, I feel like when we go back to talking about events a little bit, I feel like in-person events have always been a good way to keep people excited about something. Can you talk about how we can stay motivated while we wait for it to be safe to have in-person events to be held again?
Absolutely. I really believe in commitment. committing to yourself or committing to others. That's why group training is so good. And I know right now group training is happening in a number of different ways. Mostly it's happening virtually, but being able to connect to a group, and you mentioned Chicago Endurance Sports, and I would suggest that people go to chicagoendurancesports.com and take a look at the activities that are there. But I also believe in this phrase strongly: what gets measured gets done. And so when you are setting up your goals and being able to find a goal that you want to achieve, make it small, bite-sized commitments, not huge. Like, I want to go from being sedentary to running the Chicago Marathon. That may not be realistic or a really good goal, but being able to say that you want to be able to go and, get around the block 2 times a day, to getting up to 3 times a day, to 4 times a day, however you want that to be. So you have the ability to measure something and then go out and achieve that activity, whether that be walking, running, cycling, rollerblading, yoga. And Dr. Altman mentioned meditation. I think meditation and having that ability to quiet your mind for a bit also gives you a really good path forward. And that's what we're looking for through exercise, is a path forward in order to help our body be healthy, our mind be healthy, and also be able to get out there and be active.
Absolutely. All good points, gentlemen. Dave, I'm just going to stay with you here a little bit. I know we're talking about getting outside a lot. And I think one of the big things of kind of dealing with the winter and getting into the spring is getting outside. So when is it a good time to get back outside and be active?
When isn't it a good time to be outside and be active? I believe in a simple phrase: there is no such thing as bad weather, just bad gear, bad clothing. You should be able to get outside most times of the year and be able to dress appropriately for it. I really believe that you need to be thinking about the tools that you have in your toolbox that are going to be things that can help you move forward, not things that inhibit you from moving forward. So when we talk about apparel, we really talk about being able to have gear that is going to make sure that you are able to do the activity that you want to do at the time that you want to do it. So we have one simple phrase at Fleet Feet, which is cotton kills. Cotton is not a performance fabric. Cotton absorbs 7 to 10 times its own weight in water and has a tendency to keep you cold as opposed to keeping you warm. If you're using anything other than cotton, a polyester, a wool that is against your skin, that's going to wick moisture away to an outer layer that is going to keep you dry. Then you have an element piece that is going to be the outer layer. So keeping the snow, keeping the rain off you, so you have the ability to continue to do your activity. As simple as it sounds, wear a hat. Hat and heat have a tendency to translate through. Well, most people lose 20% of their heat through their head. I lose a little bit more than that being bald, but if you wear a hat, you have the ability to retain that heat, and it can act as actually like a thermal regulator for you as you're doing your activity. So having the right tools to be able to do that are key. For shoes, I highly encourage being able to use either trail shoes or Gore-Tex shoes or something that is an element keeping the water off of your feet. And then we also have a product called Yax Trax, which is basically like a snow tire for your shoe. Whether you're walking to the bus, the train, your house, the grocery store, or going out for an active run or walk, you can use those in order to give yourself some traction on slippery surfaces. All these materials are designed to get you out being active and enjoying the elements, enjoying the cold breath that you're taking. Because as we're talking about meditation, I think a big part of this is gratitude and having the ability to go out and do this. And whether your ability right now is to run a marathon, probably not, but maybe that's something you want to do, you can get there. Maybe it's doing your first 5K as a walk. It takes that first step.
Absolutely. And Dave, you're giving us such good information, but what are some resources that Fleet Feet has to help us figure out how to dress?
So if you go to fleetfeet.com, we have a blog on winter running. Cold, colder, coldest is one of the blogs that we have written that takes you through the way to be able to dress through the entire winter. I mentioned a few of those tips. We get much more in depth and get into the particular brands and products. I will say the one thing that if we look at the photo on the right-hand side, the young lady wearing the vest, A vest is possibly the most underrated piece of equipment in Chicago athletics. We have a tip that says you want to dress for 20 degrees warmer than what the air temperature is. So if the air temperature is 40 degrees outside, what do you normally wear for casual living when it's 60 degrees outside? So you want to have that 20% spread. We see a lot of people overdressing so they look like Randy from the movie It's a Christmas Story with the arms out, can't put the arms down. You should be able to wear lighter, much more effective clothing in order to be active.
Absolutely. Oh, those are good tips. Let's get physical, Dr. Altman. If we were being pretty sedentary from the pandemic and the Chicago winter, how should we get back to activity?
Great question. One of the best things you can do is seek out a healthcare professional that can properly assess your movements, specifically a sports movement screen. I would also recommend finding a physician that listens to your goals, that knows what you want to do so they can stage the appropriate interventions or the appropriate exercises to help pair with what you want to do. A sports-specific movement screen does a really good job of assessing that, and there's different things based on what activities you are interested in partaking in that the physician may take a look at. So it's multidimensional, but it's a really good way to approach and start that conversation of goal setting that is necessary for the patient. One thing I feel very confident here that we do very well at Align Modern Health is also consults via telemedicine. Although in-person is great, it's also great to be able to do that from the comfort of your own home and to feel safe during this time, during the pandemic, and not, increase yourself for another exposure kind of thing. So even though we do all screenings, temperature checks, and things like that, if you don't feel comfortable, coming into the clinic, a telemedicine appointment is something that can be very, very beneficial. So find a healthcare practitioner that is, one, aware of your activity, two, open to planning a plan for you, and three, uses functional or movement assessments to help screen and make sure that you're going and you're reaching towards your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And David, what is your approach to getting active in training again?
Well, it's starting up and committing. I think I sound a little bit like a broken record. One of the things that I'm doing with Chicago Endurance Sports right now is I'm doing an indoor cycling program. So we're getting together and we're all participating virtually on a platform called Zwift. Man, that makes me motivated that I'm actually getting together with people without getting together with people. It is the most freaky thing in the world, considering that I'm in my 50s and I've been doing this for a long time and it's always getting together in person. But it's so motivating to be able to be committed to another person, whether that's a neighbor of yours that you're going out for a walk or a run with, or whether it's a group that you're going to train with. I really believe that first step is key, and being able to work with somebody on getting you out the door so you're committed. It's just like going to school. And I know that's a bad analogy, but you had to go to school, and you know what you got from school? You learned. That's what you're going to do from getting outside. You're going to learn to get outside.
I love that. Some days it is hard just getting out the door and staying motivated. But I mean, that's why we're here, right? What are some other tips to prepare for this? How can we get off the comforts of the coach? Dr. Altman, I know you had some bad influence from a good friend. Who's this person that you're arm in arm with?
Yeah, this is a friend of mine who...
It's pre-COVID, by the way.
Yeah, who consistently challenges me to continue to stay active. And even though we don't live in the same state, we do a lot of races and things like that together. So we keep that community. Dave has hit on that a number of times. If you have someone that you're sharing the endeavor or the struggle with, you'll tend to go further. There's that old saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with someone. You know what I mean? And so having someone who's like-minded and shares the same values that you have is extremely important, to just make sure that you're staying accountable, that you're keeping up with, activity. And like I said, not just mentally or not just physically showing up, but mentally showing up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, as I mentioned in the intro, and we keep on bringing this community, but I love what you do with the community. Can you talk about the importance of having a good community and tell us a little bit about the ones that you helped build?
Yeah, this last year has been a great time of reflection for us at Fleet Feet because we have 1,100 events that we put on every year, whether that be training runs, run clubs, seminars, clinics, etc. And missing those people coming through our doors, not only from a business point of view is difficult, but just from an emotional point of view is difficult. I really believe that we're going to be getting back to that. We're going to start to see that group runs are going to be starting to happen. They're going to be socially distanced. They're going to be outside and putting everybody in the safest possible position to be able to be successful in what they want to do. But building community to me has been the richest part of the 25 years that we've been in business at Fleet Feet. I mean, we've had 27 marriages that have come from our stores, from people meeting at racing team, run club, et cetera. And I'm not saying we're a dating site. We're not. But we are a great place to be able to find like-minded people. So building community happens in so many different ways, whether it be from a store employee enriching somebody's life by getting them the right pair of shoes, or whether it's a racing team person that is, and racing only means speed relative to your own speed. We have people that are Olympic trials qualifiers, and we have people who run 13-minute miles on the racing team. Speed is relative. And the whole idea is getting together with those people and knowing that there's somebody out supporting you and you're out supporting somebody else. It's going to that greater good.
Absolutely. Sticking with this, with the slide here, I know that we also talked a little bit about Strava and about whatever gets written gets done and things like that. Are there any particular types of gear that you would recommend? Start with you, Dr. Altman.
Yeah, so I use a Whoop, but it doesn't have to be anything specific. It just has to be what works for you. It doesn't have to be extremely expensive either. A lot of these gadgets and all this different tech are becoming more affordable because as more things are getting into the market, it's definitely helped. So it's more about just you being able to track your data. I love the Apple Watch as well. I love what has come out with the Garmin, with some of their new features that have come out. So I highly recommend having one because it will help you. It's actually been shown in the literature that these type of devices actually increase compliance with staying with exercise and promote healthy behaviors. So it's extremely important to have one, but what you need to do is you need to see one that works for you. It's kind of like buying a car. Not everyone's going to do well with an SUV. Everyone's going to need something different. So take it for a test drive, try them out, see what you can, and do a little research on them to help you better establish and set your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, I know that you have, you really have everything that you would need to stay motivated at Fleet Feet. We have training groups, but you also have some of the most cutting edge gear. Can you give us an update on, some of these things like the Garmin and things like that, but also how you've given some of the tech in your store a personalized touch?
So we've really leaned into technology during this last year. We took what was basically a 5-year plan and it wound up getting consolidated down to about a year. Dr. Altman brought up things like like watches and personal fitness devices. I think that's one key piece to going back to that phrase that I talk in sound bites sometimes with what gets measured gets done. And I also believe that's the way that we fit footwear as well. So one of the things that we've seen at Fleet Feet is that we've leaned into this whole idea of Fit ID. And Fit ID for us is to be able to see your foot the way we want to see your foot. So what we do is we have a 3D scan that we do when you come into the store. And then we have you walk across a dynamic pressure plate. So we have the ability to see you in motion. We take all that data and we put it together, and then we can find what is going to be the right shaped shoe for your foot. Shoes come in different shapes. Some are very curved, some are very flat, some are very straight. and not everybody's foot is the same. So we use the data that we get through the dynamic pressure plate and through the Fit ID system in order to get you fit into the right type of shoe. And it also allows us to be able to do personalized insoles for people. You write with one hand, you throw a ball with one hand, you throw a bag over one shoulder. Our left side and our right side are not the same. Am I correct about that, doctor?
Absolutely.
So what we want to do is we want to be able to tune an insole based on your individual sides. Those will go into your training shoes or into your day in, day out shoes and be able to balance you. So we really leaned into technology at this time of the year in order to help people get the right shaped insole and right shaped shoe for their foot.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are wonderful. I'm really excited to try that out myself. All right. Well, you know what? We are at the end of our presentation. If you have any questions at all, we will take them now. And actually, I'm looking up, and it looks like we do have a few. So I'm going to go ahead and start. And I'll say these anonymously, by the way. So have you seen an increase in back and hip issues since more folks are working from home? Improper working from home setup, etc. Are there any easy exercises or stretches you would recommend?
Absolutely. I have seen an increase in not only neck, but lower back pain as a result, and lower back pain and hip issues due to the fact that we've been more sedentary. The reason why we're seeing more of this is because we're not being as active, and it's the actual sitting posture that typically is driving a lot of our pain. We weren't meant to sit. Humans were meant to stand. And so there's a lot of variability that could be, a lot of forces that could be exposed to your spine during those prolonged times. And a lot of times when you're sitting, you're not feeling the pain. So then when you go to get up, it's like, oh, there it is. There's that catch. What I recommend, because back pain can be so multifactorial, I highly recommend doing a consult with a physical therapist, with a chiropractor, to make sure that you're properly assessing, because there could be a multitude of different stretches. If there was a silver bullet within back pain or neck pain, we'd have it figured out instead of it being the #1 spend in America, in our healthcare system for back pain. So again, there are certain things that you can do as like a bulk strategy to help reduce pain. Gentle exercise like yoga, stretching your hip flexors, addressing a tightness in the hip flexors would be beneficial. Taking into account breathing to try and help use your diaphragm to help support your spine are a number of things that you could do to kind of help you with that there. And then the most important thing I see on the question to help get going during the pandemic is make sure that you kind of have an idea where your pain is today and track it. Make sure you have baseline measures, things that you can come back and keep tracking to make sure if you're experiencing pain. Because a lot of what it's being said in the research is it's going to be sore when you first start to get moving. Don't be discouraged. Have a way to come back and track what you're doing to make sure that you're not, constantly aggravating. Now, all those things that we just talked about, I highly recommend having a professional set of eyes taking a look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this next question because this is going to go to both of you gentlemen. How do you know if an injury is related to bad gear, and how do you know when an injury needs to be looked at by a doctor? I actually want to begin that question with you, Dave. Dave, how many people do you see in your store that come in that might be dealing with an injury related to like bad gear or worn out gear?
Well, we have a phrase at Fleet Feet that says you don't want your running shoes to experience a birthday. And so we hope that people are getting into new, fresh running gear every year. And I'll give you some math behind that to make it a little bit more simple. Athletic shoes are good for somewhere between 350, 500 active running miles. So if you're running, call it 20 miles per week, let's go 10 miles per week and do 10 miles of walking or need a new pair of shoes about every year. If you're doing 20 miles a week, you're going to need to get about every 6 months. So you want to make sure that you're getting new shoes to disperse that shock, but also we want to make sure that you're getting the right shoes. That's why we really like that Me3D and that dynamic fit process, because not all shoes are created equal. Some have more support, some have more flexibility. And I'm going to throw this up because they were talking about it like, This is the angel and the devil right here, all in one thing. It is a foam roller. For people who are working from home, there is no device that you should have more in your house than just being able to roll out and create blood flow and activity. It is such a good device to have, especially as you're working from home. And it works on not only lower body and back, but also you can use it on your arms. You can use it on your neck. There's a number of different ways to use it. Great online tools as well. And the best tool is and resources to go to professionals at Align Modern Health, because they can show you how to use this stuff.
That's a good segue to you, Dr. Altman. Have you noticed, what is your take on bad gear and how that relates to injuries?
You definitely have to track and see if you're constantly getting injured after your event. If like, for example, David mentioned about sock wear. If you're constantly, getting blisters, or if your shoes are a little bit tight, if there's some type of fit, it could be that they're not too tight, it could be that they're too loose. There's too much movement in the foot. You got to kind of assess and see, did you feel okay before you started, maybe your long runs, or did you feel okay before you went into that exercise and that workout plan? Kind of track it, keep mental notes. I always, when I'm journaling my exercise, I always just kind of note to see if there's something that I'm missing. Is there something that I can improve upon? And a lot of times it is gear. In the weightlifting world, sometimes it's changing, the shoes that you're constantly using. Those get burned out as well. So taking mental snapshots is the way that I track mine. But also too, just assessing, seeing how long you've had those shoes. If you've had those shoes for 3 seasons and they're still making it out there at the first time of the year, it's definitely time to start thinking about trying to get in some new gear, and that'll help you get excited. It's like the first day of school, you get new tech, you get new gear, you want to use it. It's going to help keep you active.
Just as a quick aside, Ryan, the oldest pair of shoes that we've seen at Fleet Feet recently is and somebody who came in with an 18-year-old pair of shoes, and they couldn't understand why their knees were hurting.
Woo!
We said that you're 17 years too late. Get their
All right, let's move on to our next question. Have you seen an increase in tennis elbow wrist issues while people are figuring out the ergonomic way to set up their home office? Let's talk about, break that down to 2 different parts. So one, have you seen an increase in that area? And then speak to like setting up your home office ergonomically.
Absolutely. So first you have to evaluate and rule out the neck being the contributor of pain into the elbow. All the nerves that come off of the neck, are what travel down into the arm. And sometimes we feel an experience called referred pain. Because we've been sitting more, working on a computer, looking down, we don't even realize we're putting more tension onto our nerves. So that can be a large thing that drives that elbow pain. I have seen a huge increase in not only shoulder, elbow, and wrist pain as a result of those ergonomics. Things that you should look for when you are setting up a home office is, one, you should have a firm back chair, one that allows your feet should be sitting nicely to the ground, your back should be firm to the back of the chair. Whatever you're working on needs to be eye level. If you're constantly looking down, you're always putting yourself in a position that's going to strain all that nerve tissue that I just talked about. Also, too, the last thing is make sure that you're not reaching. If you're reaching too far forward, you're constantly activating tightness in all this muscle tissue. It'd be like walking around with your leg constantly extended like so. You don't realize how much that's putting a strain onto your neck, onto your spine, onto the nerves that come off that area and causing tension. A lot of times, elbow pain is misdiagnosed. Once you rule this out, then you can definitely come down and treat the elbow and get good relief there. But you're right, sitting at home from the couch, from the bed, that has been the detrimental posture for the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I have one last question over here, and then we're gonna close out. But and this, I like this because this is gonna go to both of you gentlemen. As someone who is training for the marathon for the first time, do you recommend doing weekly PT, massage, acupuncture, or only if injured? First, I want to bring this to Dave. Dave, was with being so active in the community, what do you do? And like, what do you as coaches do?
Me personally, I'm a huge fan of acupuncture and I'm a huge fan of massage. I do it on a therapeutic basis. So I have regularly scheduled massage, and I've been doing more acupuncture and acupressure recently. But I like those routines while training. I don't think you should wait for an injury. When you wait for an injury, it's too late. You want to be proactive in this, not reactive to this. If you have the means to do it weekly, God bless you. That's fantastic. But I believe being able to be on a regular schedule and doing things like hydration, self-massage, stretching as well are key as you're going through this. So making it a routine. The people I've coached for many, many years and on many different levels. This is about process, especially when training for a marathon. It's very much process driven, being able to do the repeated activities in a way to keep you healthy.
Nice. Dr. Altman, what would you suggest?
Excellent answer. I always tell my patients, I'd love to see you, in that predetermined moment before the injury happened. That's why we use the sports movement screen. If you're getting ready or prepped up for something, it's good to get a good evaluation, It's good to understand what you could be predisposed to, what triggers, what type of muscles, are driving you to that pain. Because as you know, exercise is a repetitive event, You're constantly grooving different shortcuts to your body is to try and keep you active. Some of those may become detrimental to your body if you're constantly loading that same pattern and have that same muscle tissue tension. Acupuncture can be excellent at getting those tight, chronically tight muscles that don't always release with massage or chiropractic care. Acupuncture can be great to help cause that muscle tissue to relax for that long-term chronic tension. And then what Dave talked about, massage is excellent at just getting blood flow, stimulating the different systems of the body to help kind of loosen up some of those restrictions and getting maybe prolonged inflammation out of the muscle tissue, tendons, and joints. So when you get back out there, you don't feel that same chronic stress from the last time you ran. It's a great way to hit a pause or a reset to kind of get your body back into the best position to continue to stay active.
Yeah, the therapeutic healing nature of blood, it cannot be undersold.
Absolutely, 100%. That's a great way to kind of conclude everything. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you to our wonderful guests, Dave Zimmer, Dr. Altman. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your insight. Some big takeaways. First of all, just get started. That's all. Getting physically active will set up a cascade of effects that will positively impact your life. Having friends, community involvement, and the right gear will help you sustain your momentum and will get you through those tough winter days. If you have any additional questions and you want to see how we can help you, please visit us at alignmodernhealth.com or call us at the number on the screen to schedule your personalized free consultation. We are in network with most major insurance companies and do complimentary benefits checks before your first visit. And if you are in need of some sweet new gear that will keep you both warm and motivated, or if you want to sign up for an upcoming training program, check out Fleet Feet Chicago online. My name is Ryan. This is Align Modern Health's Digital Doc Series. Keep an eye out for our spring series, which picks up again in March. And to start with, we'll be rummaging through my kitchen for a little pantry makeover. We look forward to seeing you break out of your winter blues and living your life to the fullest. Stay safe and see you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.